Hey y'all, this is my Ink Master recap, Season 4, Episode 7, Ink Master Explosion. And we have finally caught up with the scene that we have seen previewed all season long, which is Kyle getting into it with Judge Nunez. Now, the catalyst for this explosion was last week. As the contestants were leaving the judging room, Nunez said, "By the way, you tell Kyle he should have been down here." They, of course, go back to the room, tell Kyle, and he starts churning on this. Now, I think that's probably the lamest thing a judge has said all season, perhaps the whole thing. Because they're the judges. Last week, they put two people in the bottom. If Kyle should have been there, then he would have been there. Nunez just said that just to poke at Kyle. Sure, Kyle hasn't been the greatest artist, but if he had the worst design, then he would have been in the bottom too. That's all there is to it. So for me, it's just an example of them just trying to be tough, hardcore tattoo artists when, I don't know, I guess they feel that just who they are is not enough. So anyway, Kyle, they go out there. Dave Navarro is giving his little speech about, today's challenge is this and this. And Kyle starts barking stuff out at Nunez, and they get into it. And they don't, as near as I can tell, they don't actually exchange any blows. They get up in each other's face, and then they get separated. They go outside, they get up in each other's face, they get separated. They're calling each other, this and that, and in the end, Kyle gets removed from the competition. Kyle I'm not really that upset. He has been hanging on by a thread. Emotionally, he'd been kind of the edge for a while, but I don't take anyone's side in this argument, because Nunez, first off, he shouldn't have made that comment. If Kyle was in the bottom, they should have put him in the bottom. If he wasn't in the bottom, there was no reason to be calling out stuff about, oh, you should have been in the bottom. I just think he just thought it was a cool thing to say to ruffle his feathers. So I'm not taking anyone's side in this. Obviously, Kyle shouldn't have gotten all worked up. But there was something in this I liked, which was Dave Navarro's reaction, which was total, dumbfounded, what? Huh? Which cracked me up. I hosted a TV show, and I definitely had a few of those moments where you're going along and you're doing your job and you're not even thinking about it, and someone will react in a way and you're like, I have no idea what to do this because I'm up here doing my business and someone's just kind of lost their mind. Anyway, that cracked me up. I like any time in a reality show where we get absolute 100% reality. And Dave Navarro's face in that scene was 100% true to what was going on. Anyway, let's move into the episode. Theme of the day is negative space, the use of absence of color or black or anything to accentuate the design. So for the flash challenge, they have these big canvases. They take sand, which will be the negative space. Then they put a layer of, gunpowder. They cover it up. They blow up the gunpowder. Gunpowder, where the gunpowder is black. Where the sand is white. There you go. So they were supposed to have 8 artists. They end up with 7 because Kyle is kicked out. Since Halo was the winner last week, he gets to assign all the groups, and he gets to assign who's alone. He puts General J with Lydia, who had worked before, and they kind of had some friction. Melissa and Maddie. Halo pairs himself with Scott, who he feels is the strongest, and he puts Sausage alone because they feel he's the strongest designer. Okay? Or one of them, I should say. So Sausage is kind of like, what did I do? Anyway, they go, they do it. Halo and Scott win. They get to assign all the canvases together. So Rob Zombie is our guest judge. The theme of the day is demons, and they're doing black and gray tattoos. So you only get to use the color black, and you have to use kind of lighter wash and use of the skin to create the lighter tones all the way through the open space, which would then be the equivalent of a white on a black and white. Okay? So they go through all the skins, they assign them all. There's one skin who is clear-cut the most difficult, heads and tails above everyone else. The guy's got an attitude even when they're asking him about what he wants. He also has loose skin around his stomach. Nothing wrong with that. It's just for the sake of tattooing, that is not an appropriate place. It was really clear that if you pull the skin tight, then the tattoo won't look right when the guy's just standing. There's really no way to tattoo the skin with the there was just no way for this to work. I can't imagine anyone would ever tattoo there. So they give that one to Sausage. Now, Sausage does whine a little bit about that. I will give him that. There definitely was a little bit more complaining than normal. But so far in this season, one of the reasons why I've liked Sausage is that he's always the first one to say, I'll tattoo what I'm given, you know, all that kind of stuff, when everybody else is complaining. So I kind of, for me, it's kind of a wash. He hasn't complained so far, and everybody else has complained like crazy. But it doesn't mean he's right in this circumstance. But what really like turned my stomach and really turned me off to Scott was the amount of Scott's gloating. It's not like Scott also got a hard design and was like, you know, we both have hard designs. He like comes over and he's like, oh, how you doing with that design? And then in an interview he's like, he's complaining because he's got a hard design. And I'm like, that is such unattractive behavior in anyone. It was really kind of gross to see. Anyway, Sausage convinces the guy to move the tattoo, which I think is totally legitimate because it would have been I can't imagine any tattoo artist agreeing to tattoo right there. And then they act like he cheated somehow because he got it to move. Anyway, I thought it was kind of the whole episode was unattractive behavior from everyone. In the end, though, big redemption story. Sausage wins. And he has to put someone in the bottom, so he puts Lydia, which was a very weak design. The skin jury nominate Melissa. And then Halo's the third one who ends up in the bottom, which, you know, especially after all his wins and his, you know, kind of trying to hurt everyone else that kind of had to have salt in the wound. In the end, Lydia goes home, which is probably about time, and she's been holding on for a bit. So we are really getting down to the nitty-gritty. Now we're down to 6 artists. My assumption and my prediction is that at some point they will not do an elimination. They were planning on having 8, and unless they had planned on doing a double elimination, which is very possible, they're now going to end up with 1 less artist than they had planned for everything, which means they're either going to have to not eliminate someone or bring someone back or something, because the fact is that they would have all their challenges sketched out according to how many people there would be at each episode. So there you go. I'll catch up with you guys later.